Hello and welcome to Movie of the Year, the only podcast with the science and the screaming to determine the best movie for any given year. And we have done it, ladies and gentlemen. We have made our way back to 1999. Isn't that the goal? Back to when we were so young and our knees felt so good. We've already picked the best movie of 1999 one time, but you know what? That was like 8 years ago. We're not those people anymore. We need to figure out a whole new 1999. I'm your host, Greg. I'm here to lead us through 1999. And with me, my friends and their competitors, Mike and Ryan. Mike, starting with you, what have you brought tonight to 1999, Mike?
What I've brought is a whole big 3-liter bottle of Jolt Cola because they sold them in that shape back then.
The 3-liter bottle. Oh, we got to go back.
Family size full of Funyuns. It's 99, baby. We're playing GoldenEye all night.
Ryan.
Yeah, Greg.
What did you think of the 3-liter soda? Did you think that was a good form factor for soda, 3 liters?
Excuse me. It's a challenge. I just chugged a 3-liter bottle just now. It's a challenge to you. Can you, fatty, drink all of this before it goes flat?
It went flat so quick. And you know why? They made the mouth of the bottle really wide. It got too flat because of that.
The trick is your boys, your homies who are all sleeping over because his dad is out of town. You all wrap your lips around part of the bottle, so you're also smooching while you're chugging that soda.
Yeah, that's what you're wrapping those lips around at the sleepover. But shut up, both of you. Well, I tell our listeners one very important thing, which is that this is a game show. That's why I said you guys are competitors, because you're going head to head tonight. I will be keeping score. Anytime you say something interesting, anytime you say something funny, anytime you disguise your compliment so that it actually gets through my shields, you're going to get a point. I will update you at the end of every segment so that we all know how it's going, who's winning, who's losing, and who has to butter up my boys better. And what better film to talk about a direct competition between just two people than Election. That's right. Tonight, our 1999 movie is Election. Ryan, what is your history with the 1999 movie Election?
Oh, Greg, I have a incredibly detailed and poignant history with it, seeing as that I fought so hard for this movie to be in the last show that we did all those years ago. I was denied by, who can say, the board.
Small
right?
minds.
Yeah. But in a way, I am glad that we had to wait 10 years to do this movie because of how much more important this movie is, how much more it predicted. If it wasn't for the Tracy Flicks of the world, this country would, or people's feelings towards Tracy Flicks, this country would not be at the very last days of democracy. I could not believe how just important and now this movie is.
Mike, what is your recollection of seeing this movie in 1999? Did you?
Probably not in 99. And if I saw it in 99, I probably would have been like, dumb. There's no blood. This is dumb.
There's a little blood. When she tears down the posters, there's some blood.
Okay, that was harrowing, and it would have been my favorite part. I probably saw it like in high school, but loved it because I definitely whatever the age where I was like, comedies can be, wait for it, dark. Blew up my little mind, and I fell in love with all of that kind of thing.
This is 1999 is like I feel like maybe one of the last years where I have so many memories of the movie attached to the film going experience, the theater going experience. And there are lines in this movie that I remember being in the theater and hearing them and like the explosive reaction to some of them. I think in a way we've kind of like lost something by not like, or for me personally, I hardly ever go to the theater anymore. And so I don't get those moments, but like part of my memory with this movie will forever be attached to some of the
how the theater
lines.
reacted to the guy saying her pussy was so wet.
A
line in my head, I remembered That's what opens the entire movie. Wrong. You get like at least 8 minutes before that hits.
Oh yeah, that's I think how you get buttered up a little bit, or you get like softened up. You're just watching a normal movie for most of it, and then or for the first 8 minutes, and then all of a sudden that drops on you. And there was like this weird kind of pregnant silence in a lot of the movie, or followed by just like kind of like raucous laughter.
You don't get 8 minutes if you fast forward while you watch movies the way that I do. I like the theater going experience, which is now basically blockbusters and Marvel movies, don't have those moments. Like almost purposefully, they do everything they can to not get you to react, and that's why the death of comedy in theaters was the biggest, most hurtful thing. Is like that experience is totally gone. I also rewatching it this week. I'm gonna try not to talk about our previous '99 season and what we talked about then. I'm gonna try to
only talk about it
as little as possible, but 1 million times over the course of that season, I had claimed that there was the same movie made 4 times in 4 different genres, which is Office Space, American Beauty, The Matrix, and Fight Club. And it was just like, you know, these men who are so shit upon and downtrodden that like...
Won't somebody pay attention to the middle-aged white men?
We're middle-aged and middle class, and that's our problem.
And I think that throughout the season, we're going to see how many movies I missed. The winner, Eyes Wide Shut, and like this movie, which I wouldn't think about it because of Reese Witherspoon, but these movies are actually like the last gasp of white men before their needlessness is just fully evident to everyone.
And that's why we are the way we are, because we started ignoring them. And it's been really hard for white men since 1999.
It really has.
Do you think, Ryan, that in a way, like you weren't quite prepared for Election the first time you saw it, and that there's a way in which like we were a lot closer to high school when we saw Election the first time, and now we are like older than Jim McAllister?
Come on, don't talk like that.
I'm sorry, man, but do you think like did you feel that perspective shift?
I want to say that I understood it perfectly as a young man, a young teenager, who was woke as fuck before that term even existed.
Oh yeah.
Let's assume that that's not true. It's hard to remember, but I don't know if there's been a more just a character that has risen from the ashes more than Tracy Flick because of what's happened over the last 25 years. Just turning this movie into an absolute litmus test of who you are and what you are all about. You can just tell by talking to anybody about any single character, like everything that they have ever voted for. And I think that if I wasn't exactly on Tracy Flick's page before, oh man, have things changed?
Well, that is too interesting to not immediately jump into the movie. But you know what, gentlemen? Before we do that, the scoring has already begun.
What?
It's 2-1, Ryan. Mike, you're asleep on the job.
We were not told scoring would begin yet. This feels...
And yeah, I still appreciate you scoring like that, Greg. That's
been
fine.
Bamboozled.
When we come back, let's get into this flick. Election, based on the Tom Perrotta book of the same name, centers on Tracy Flick as she attempts to become student body president. Standing in her way is teacher and advisor Jim McAllister, who is the first in our series of 1999 middle-aged men going through it. A simple, arguably insignificant Nebraska high school election becomes the impetus for the destruction of no fewer than 15 lives. We counted. Oh, there's one more thing about Tracy I think you should know.
Oh, God.
Her presidency is no foregone conclusion. Before all is said and done, we'll see firings, divorces, posters wantonly destroyed, and worse. But speaking of Tracy Flick, how does the movie and the characters within feel about the ambition that Tracy Flick, a 16-year-old girl, dares to display?
I think that the movie, even if society wasn't ready, the movie the whole time, even when it came out, knew that she is the hero. I think Alexander Payne is very smart, very sharp, and is the whole time probably was not surprised by how I'll fall on this sword. When I watched it, I was like, this is about 2 villains going head to head, equally bad. And as an adult, I went, oh, this
Ryan,
is one child just who's a little intense, and that's okay.
Do you agree with that, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, as someone who has taught high school before, sometimes she's a little hard to watch because I've had students like that. Students want to be like that around me with the raising of the hand, not the pussy's getting wet. But I just the fact that she acts like she does, and it's so viscerally angering, and yet people don't ever think about why. They just react, And I think like one of the most standout points this time around is Mr. McAllister. This is what we call a movie full of unreliable narrators. Mr. McAllister says to us, he knows it wasn't Tracy Flick's fault that she slept with Mr. Novotny, but that doesn't mean that he believes it, or it doesn't fuel almost all of his actions, at least in the beginning. He is super pissed that she did this and got away with it.
Well, like a little bit maybe in that same narration or very shortly after, he says, but Dave basically is a good guy. It's this cognitive dissonance. He's saying, I know she's not at fault. And in the back, you can hear a smaller, broader voice saying, because I know I'm supposed to say that. But the rest of his actions, and especially at the end, he goes, why did you have to reveal? Like, the whole time, and I know we wouldn't have had a movie out of it. I know some of her delightful wouldn't be there. But the minute Dave tells him, if he just told the weird hardline principal what was up, all of it would be shut down. It would be great.
I mean, I think that what bothers him too is that if Tracy got a reputation, nothing life altering, but if at least people knew that she wasn't perfect, he might be fine. That would be enough of the repercussions for him.
Right.
But because that doesn't happen, because everybody thinks she's this goody two shoes and he knows what she's quote unquote capable of, it's like it's his job, it's his journey to make sure that doesn't continue any longer. And so he can say what he thinks to us, but it's simply not true.
Right. And like, so, and I know we should be talking about Tracy, but how foils work.
The question was about Tracy. I'm looking down at my notes here.
Setting him up, it's so problematic to have a high school teacher watching football cheerleader porn that's clearly about high schoolers. Like, that's why I think the movie the whole time is fully on Tracy's side and always was, where some movies get confused. And we'll talk about that throughout the 1999 season, where you're like, well, the filmmaker started on this side, but then he fell in love with Brad Pitt.
Is there a more Midwestern scene in movie history than a guy going to his basement to watch a porn VHS, pants on, drinking a Pepsi?
Nothing's creepier. Nothing's creepier than taking it in like you would an old Steve Reeves movie.
And he's like thinking about his life. He's like reflecting on his life, just like staring at the screen.
And that's what we lost when we have our phones in our hand watching a 3-minute clip of Mia Khalifa.
Let's please turn this back to Tracy just for a second though. Because are we being too exonerative of her? Ryan, you point out that like one potential strike against her, she's just a kid, but that she like is able to like still project the goody two shoes demeanor, even though Jim McAllister knows that she has this like skeleton in her closet. Is that his only problem with her? What grates about her? Because he's not the only one that seems to have an issue with her, right?
Yeah, I think it's like Mike brought up earlier about, what Payne wants to show us, the director. And I think it's clear, having seen all of his movies, even up to the very like traditional holdovers, is that he finds these one-dimensional characters that movies are filled with super boring, right? And so what we get to see is all this stuff that Mr. McAllister doesn't even know. We get to watch the whole poster scene. And Alexander Payne, that was on purpose. He didn't accidentally leave that in there. Mr. McAllister, Mr. M, he assumes, but we get to know. And watching Tracy, I think that poster scene is so much more interesting than the scene where her mom comes in. And the mom, just the way that she talks to her, proves that she's responsible for so many of Tracy's faults.
The scene where she wins Mother of the Year?
Yes. And she's like, here, take one of my pills. I'm sure it'll be fine. Also, here's how you fucked up. Like, not a great... Did you guys recognize that actress, by the way?
No.
That is the maid from Clue.
Very interesting. Also, you could totally be making that up, and I wouldn't even know. Listeners, please do not fact check that.
But yeah, like showing all of the sides of, and not exonerating her on every way, I think was super important to him, and boring otherwise.
Yeah, I think what she is an annoying, and that there's teenagers who aren't this annoying. But she is an ambitious, annoying girl. And I was going to say especially then, but no, we've seen throughout history Society cannot take an ambitious woman. And so that is her biggest flaw in society's minds. But she will. It's not that she's not like so narrow-minded that, or like tunnel vision, that she doesn't see she hurts people's feelings. She just thinks, isn't that worth it if I get what I want? Because then I will do the greater good if I get what I want. I actually do know best. She doesn't see the room for anybody else's worldview.
That is like my biggest problem with her potentially, is that she self-identifies as special, and she self-identifies as like great. And
but
in those
just
ways,
like
it kind
the
of
characters
like,
of Fight Club.
Yeah. And it causes her to be oftentimes like dismissive of people. Mm-hmm. And she does think of herself as having a destiny, and that in a weird way, that like however, and I think you hit on this, Mike, however she like attempts to manifest that destiny, is valid, right? And so doesn't she, in a way, she's just a kid or whatever, but we can kind of see in a weird way Jim McAllister's position of like, I have to like stop this person when she's young.
I think we all know, probably baffling to some leaders, have led young minds in one form or another. And I think we all know what you do is you step in and act as a guide and a counselor, not as a bulldozer.
That's certainly how he self-identifies. Because when it's interesting, like when he's telling his own little story, he's being so helpful to the kids, but you don't actually see him ever do that in the main action of the movie. He has many opportunities to like help somebody out, and he doesn't seem that interested.
But I think that like, you know, it's cliche to say that there's a million boys that acted like her and we were all like, oh God, please be successful. But I think from the movie's point of view, I think that if Mr. McAllister would have been a woman, it would have been different, because I think he's not only intimidated by women all throughout his life in every single example, right? But I think that knowing the story about her affair with the teacher, knowing that she's a girl, and then also I read that Tom Peretta based the book on like 3 instances of his life, and one of them was teaching. What he said was the first generation of women raised by feminists. And he said that they were so intimidating. There was no training on how to deal with this, because the previous training of teaching girls was shut the fuck up, right? Like, just do the work. Don't ask questions. And for these girls to like say, no, I am destined to be great like a boy would, they did not know how to handle that.
Yeah, so it was immediately like sort of recontextualized as a threat.
And I have to put a stop to this. Exactly, a threat. She's going to take over my job, maybe.
In your teaching histories, because I know what I did, I probably wasn't correct. In your teaching histories, when you run into this kind of student who is hand up first no matter what, looks upset if you don't pick on them, what is the best thing to do? What do you all
I'm sorry. It's a good question, but for me, I need to be clear. Did you say upset if they pick them or don't pick on them? Because
don't pick on them. If you pick somebody else, if you ask somebody else, to answer when they're like,
nothing like this, Mike. None of these, not a single decision in this movie ever crossed my mind.
A classroom is like a D&D party, Mike, and that's everybody has to share the spotlight, and so you're always going to have the people that like want to jump right into the spotlight, and a teacher and a DM both just have to find a way to massage the situation so that you're kind of like cycling that person out of the spotlight constantly and calling on the people who like really want to respond but need to be like strongly encouraged to respond. Right. Yeah.
What I did, which always felt wrong, based on like the crushing defeat in the Tracy of my class, would be like, I see you, Tracy, let's let somebody else answer, which always felt okay, cool. I just can't take those like anger eyes.
I think that's a valid thing to say. Like, I see you, but let's like hear from somebody else. I think that's totally fine.
Again, would have been a much shorter movie, but a totally valid response. And I think that like the very, very end note of this movie, where he's at a new job and there's an 8-year-old Tracy Jr. shooting her hand into the air, and he gets a look. That is like a wah, wah kind of ending. Kind of one of the broader parts of the movie, but also like just proof that, man, you thought that you had this one villain.
Right.
You know, you had this one person who you had to change the whole time, but it was you, buddy, because you've got the issue. The look on his face is like, oh, fuck, this is, you know, I'm going to react like this anytime this comes up in my life.
While we're still on Tracy, before moving off her, do we see elements of Ayn Rand's philosophy in her? I was mindful of Ayn Rand's thoughts about greatness. Did you guys hear that?
Yeah, she does say, she says, my mom says, but everything her mom says she believes is the weak are always trying to sabotage the strong, which is very Randian.
Yeah. And that's another way in which I think her like character sits uncomfortably as like as a heroic figure. Like Tracy Flick is in a lot of ways kind of like a bad victim, because we don't just feel purely pity for her. She kind of annoys the viewer too, and I think this is one way in which she does it.
Going back to the whole Destiny thing too, is like she said, and I would have won president easily, except this guy, came and messed it all up, or at least was a speed bump for a while. And forgetting about Mr. McAllister's destiny, she can only think about hers. What is it that Ayn Rand says makes you powerful? Is it self-determination, or is it being white or rich, or what is her claim?
That like an internal greatness and extreme individuality. That those things will like allow you to see things that other people don't and achieve things that other people can't. But at the same time, it will also make you an enemy to everybody who like wants mediocrity to be the standard, so that they don't feel bad about the fact that like they can't really achieve anything. That's how I think she would defend herself.
She's very anti-equity, because from The Incredibles, which is actually where most of my Ayn Rand knowledge comes from. When the villain says when everybody's super, nobody is, and that's her argument. Like, so we should lift up the people who are super, and those who are not, we should not help them in any way, shape, or form, because they don't deserve it.
Yeah, because the flip side of that is that altruism is a corrosive force in society. That empathy and altruism are like the ways to destruction, because that's how they let us kind of like keep weakness as a part of culture.
Some modern great minds call it the great sin of empathy.
Elon Musk?
I don't know who said it, actually. Some douche.
But ultimately, that's what's compelling about Tracy, right? Is that she's not perfect, and that in a lot of ways we can see. I feel like everybody in this movie, you can kind of see from their perspective, and then at the same time, you just watch them make all these terrible decisions and mess everything up for themselves.
And I mean, if this movie was made 10, 15 years later, somebody who is treated like Tracy would grab a gun. Like, she has zero friends. She's got she's not only is she misunderstood, she's completely outcast for being this loser. She thinks of her as the exact opposite. She's the only non-loser in the high school. And so this is where she puts her energy. We do need these people to put their energy somewhere. And I think a school election is probably a good idea.
As we close out this segment, Ryan, you are ahead 10-8.
Okay, I thought you were just ahead 10. I was like, what? I'm out. I'll leave.
But it's time to head to the store, because we're going on a shopping spree when we come back.
Sonny will get you a golden goose as soon as we get home.
No, I want one of those.
I'm gonna pop some tags. Only got $20 in my pocket.
Oh, I love that sound. Here we are, ready to race through election with our shopping carts. I always get the one with the wiggly wheel. People at home know what that's all about. Of course, we can go through, we can grab anything that's not a person, anything, it can even be an experience if you pitch it right. But what looks good in election? The order is going to be Ryan, Mike, Greg. And so, Ryan, we're going to you. What did you see in election that you had to add to your private collection?
It's so clear to me what the first pick is. There's so many options in the movie Election, which takes place in 90s Omaha, Nebraska. But I have to go with that CVS bag for date night. Mr. M rushes over to CVS because he thinks he's about to hook up with Mr. Novotny's ex-wife, and just so many good decisions throughout this movie. And so he spends probably $30 and 20 minutes in a bag full of date night goodies.
Box of chocolates, some flowers in there. I assume some sort of prophylactic. I hope so. You dirty
dental
dog.
dams.
And the one thing that the 90s were crazy, and I do get those dental dams. You can't draft those. The one thing he didn't get from CVS that he brings is a book of poetry that he checked out from the high school library.
That's such a nice touch.
So you know it's the good stuff.
This guy knows romance.
Meanwhile, he's doing this he's like proctoring a test, and he has left the school grounds. There's so many parts of this movie where when you're a teacher, you know that it's not about this, and it's like obviously doesn't matter. But there's so many things that happen where you're just like, "Ooh, don't do that. Oh, no. Oh, you're in the parking lot. What are you doing? What are you doing?"
I once got in trouble for going to make copies.
Yeah, dude. They don't want you to go to the freaking bathroom, man. They certainly don't want you to leave school. Like if you're just imagine running down the hall past the office to
leave to go prepare your fuck den.
I gotta wash my balls.
Yeah. Well, how stinky? How stinky were those balls?
I asked my wife, who is currently a public high school teacher, what would happen to a tenured high school teacher if they got busted rigging an election.
Yeah.
And she said, tenured, they might not be able to do next year's student election. Other than that, nothing.
But if they volunteered to do it, they
Yeah,
would probably
fucking-
get it. If you're going to put your hand up, then. All right, Mike, we're going to go to you now. What do you have to have from the movie Election?
I have to have. Was a big fan of this. The Metzlers have a killer green leather furniture set
Okay.
that I was in love with. It was a very deep, dark shade of green. I've never seen furniture that looks like this. And I'm not saying it would look good with anything. I'm saying I would like it, and that's what matters.
Dude, the dad has like a nice dad chair when he's like yelling at his daughter because he's like he can't believe she's acting up so much.
Mhm.
Oh, his chair looks so nice, so comfy.
Did you guys recognize that as the bad dad from That Thing You Do and the bad dad from Donnie Darko?
Yeah,
and just
dude.
is in every movie that we watch.
He's a dad dick.
Mike,
He
was
needs
it
to be
weird
used.
watching that scene that the IKEA prices did not appear above each piece of furniture?
Yeah, I thought we were suddenly going to really hyper focus on what that bad dad is going through.
This is a 90s movie. I want to see IKEA prices.
All right, now we're going to me. I'm an adult, so like I can buy as much
Brag.
I can literally buy as much gum as I want. And like if you showed me like 20 packs of gum, I'd be like, "Well, no, thank you." But when you pour them all into a big bowl, holy moly, that bowl of gum looked so good. I would be just like that punk kid who reached in and took a handful even though you're all supposed to just take one. Tracy Flick's big bowl of gum. I got to have it, man.
Alternative title.
That gum gets so wet. Now we already talked about how quickly the 3-liter bottle goes flat. But once all those juicy fruits are taken out of the pack, are they on the stale countdown or are they still okay with the foil?
Oh, yeah. They're on the clock for sure, dude. I don't think gum can take that.
You should have 10 in your mouth at once.
Yeah.
And then in 30 seconds, that flavor's gone.
Okay, I'm looking over our first round picks. We've got some good stuff. Ryan, your bag full of date night goodies. Mike, you've got the green leather furniture set, and I had, of course, the bowl of gum. I have to say, I kind of saw without seeing the green leather furniture set.
Wow.
It's perfect for Nebraska of the 90s. Of course, like you have to remember, the 90s looked so much like the 80s for most people because we never updated our furniture after that, especially in places like Nebraska. So, man, that's a nice big plush chair. You gotta love it. So Mike, I'm giving you the point there. All right, so off my like bowl of gum, I definitely want to get something very impressive, and I don't know why. I guess I'm like a Tracy Flick backer, and so I'm gonna go with yet another part of the Tracy Flick experience, which is she to like kind of juice the results on the day of the election. She brings 480 Pick Flick cupcakes. And I don't know, dude. I just think 480 cupcakes, like, that would hit the fucking spot. You know?
And
So
I think
I'm just going to go ahead and take all 480.
We learned later, probably made an assumption early in the movie, but we learned later that there's no way this mom, and certainly no dad, was helping with this.
No.
Yeah.
She made all those cupcakes.
She got up at 3 a.m. to start making those cupcakes.
She says her mom helped her, but I wonder if she did. I wonder if she really did. All right, so I've got my big bowl of gum and my cupcakes. Combo potential there. Mike, what's going to go with your big green leather furniture?
In the beginning of this segment, Greg, you mentioned experiences. And so I want the general experience. It's not with any specific person that happens to be in the movie. But Paul is talking about how everything is looking good.
Yeah.
And most of his days are now ending with a fucking a hot tub.
Oh, yeah.
And this is not with Lisa
Two
M.
bits.
But it's I just want to fuck in a hot tub.
It does sound nice. That sounds so relaxing.
He's just getting the hot tub here, right? Like, what you do in the hot tub, that's up to you.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want in the hot tub. So yeah, we're gonna say just the hot tub.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but
You could probably have sex in there.
you could have sex in there, big guy.
It's not as great as you think it is.
It's really not. I know.
Yeah.
It like the movies taught us that like shower sex and hot tub sex is the best. Dude, there's a hip new place to have sex. It's called the bed, and it's so good. You could do like most of the moves right on the bed, and you don't suddenly get heat exhaustion.
I want to do like a 50s era version of Greg's song. There's a hip new place to have sex
Yeah,
called
dude.
the bed.
It's green leather furniture set. Oh, Mike's got that one too. All right, Ryan. I think I kind of freaked everybody out and upset a lot of people. Why don't you cleanse the palate with your next pick?
I'm going to move towards the end of the movie, and I'm going to take Mr. McAllister's New York apartment.
Nice.
I've never been to this place. Mike, is this, as our senior New York correspondent, is this about what New York apartments are like?
We're here in New York, Ryan. You're in the 90s. I'm in the 40s. And yes, this is what the apartments were like.
I think they said, like, is it $3,000 in 1999 money for one, like you could touch
15
all
hundo, I think. I think we're talking
15 hundo,
1550.
1550, and you can stand in the middle and touch every wall.
Yeah. Dude.
But
Convenient.
if I'm owning it, if I'm not paying rent, like I just get it, then it's a nice little place for the three of us guys to go and hang out in New York for the weekend.
New York
See an
apartments
NBA
have you
draft.
saying things like, we could have a bath in the kitchen. I think that's smart. Or we could just have like a toilet in the middle of our room. I think that's like a really good idea. Why not? We could definitely do that. Well, that is a pretty good pick. New York apartment. I like that. So, Ryan, you had New York apartment. Mike, you had a hot tub, open parentheses, little something, something, close parentheses. And I had 480 cupcakes. So, of course, I win that round with 400.
We all know.
Yeah, that is a.
And now, are you gonna be a legend and do those in one sitting, Greg?
Oh yeah, dude. I'm going to the house with these. Man, you think you've got 480 cupcakes worth of hunger, and then you eat one cupcake, and you're like, I could see doing another one of these, but I think the other 478 might be a problem.
If you do that, you're not going to the house. You're going to the house patrol.
Wow.
Yeah,
I mean, I hate to speak after that, but
I mean,
for every cupcake, I hope you do the thing where you tear off the bottom and put it on the top. And when nobody notices the weird way you're eating, you do explain to everyone what you did and why. That's super important.
I do have to say, if you have 480, you can just kind of like eat them the way he did in the movie, where you just grab it and kind of squeeze it into your mouth and then just throw the rind on the ground. You don't even care about the bottom part.
Cupcake.
Mike liked that joke so much that I gave him a point. It just was full of enthusiasm.
The rind.
We are entering into the third round here. The pick is to me. And Mike, you were right when you said we can have experiences. I just think Ryan and I don't want those experiences to include sex with a high school girl.
Neither do
But
I.
I think an experience that would be really nice is to have a little Italian driving interlude. After he has sex, he decides he's gonna like drive around, and he's feeling so good. I think this is after he makes all his preparations, and he's so happy that he imagines he's driving in Italy, and he's like, "Ciao, ciao," and that just seems so nice. Little Italian driving interlude. Mike, it's back to you again. Sexual high schooler off the board. What would you like to pick?
I think these will match very well with my green leather furniture set and my hot tub. Tammy's purple walls. People know me. They know I love purple. And those walls slapped.
Purple walls, purple walls.
It would get sung a lot.
Man, the interior colors in this movie are going off. Between like the school with like blue carpeting and like the everything being wood paneled, man, you've just got a lot of variety of colors in this movie.
The fact that he said it's going to get sung a lot. Like every time Mike goes into his room, throws his backpack on the ground, and then we have to hear that song. That's a lot.
I thought you said every time Mike goes in his room and throws his back out. I was like, right.
That is more accurate.
These all sound normal. Okay, Ryan, we're back to you here with your second to last pick.
Yes.
This could be an important one. What you got?
I'm going to take a tree with attacking wasps. And I'm just going to put that right in front of my house. And anybody walking around with their eyes open, one of those eyes is going to be shut for the rest of their story.
Is it eyes open or is it karmic wasps?
Yeah.
It's eyes open, butt shut. That's the way I like to fuck.
I like how you framed it as like a defensive wasp tree.
Yeah.
If someone's coming over trying to mess with your wife, They're going to wander into the wasp trees. And you know what? Because of that, Ryan, got to give you the point there. You won that round with Wasp Tree, even though I had Italian Driving Interlude, which sounds, I don't know, that just got a great sound to it, I got to say.
But yeah, it's a early 2000s pop punk band.
Now, Ryan, you only have this one pick left. So think about what you need here. Are you trying to go for a nice set of things? Are you trying to scoop up a high value item late in the draft? What's your thoughts? What are your thoughts here?
Oh, high value item.
Okay.
I think that I didn't even know the price of that apartment, and I just watched this movie. You guys had to correct me. And then those CBS things, like I took a guess as to how much Mr. M paid for them. The Wasp Tree, priceless, but it probably has a price. How do we know? I want David Novotny's pricing gun at his job post-teaching. I will put the price on fucking anything I want for the rest of my life. Yeah, it's called a gun, first of all, like not a price maker or a price or sticker putter. It's a gun.
One of the better price gun scenes in a movie. That's like, I don't think kids today realize that, like, if you're setting your story in a modern setting, you can't have any single character out there just popping those price tags on everything.
And now we have technology has advanced so much that we just have a sign in front of all the cans that say each of these are 99 cents. Yeah. For some reason back then, we had to put on every one 99 cents.
Mike, pricing gun. Did he nab that right in front of you?
I'm a little bummed. I'll go down to my next pick. And now I know you said we couldn't get people, but I see this one as more of a power. It has been stated by us and viewers of this movie, Tracy doesn't have friends, but she does have the magical ability. So whenever she needs an activity, she just snaps her fingers and a lackey appears to help her do things.
Okay.
I want lackeys.
I like it. Yeah. That's a way in which, again, like, she's semi-villainous. She like has a bunch of goons, and I'm sorry, modern generation, I'm not giving that word up. She's got a bunch of goons that run around and do her bidding.
One of which would go on to become Hunter from The Office.
The Hunted?
Hunter the Hunted from Jan. He was Jan's assistant who sang
That One Night
by the Hand. Yes.
All right. So the last pick is to me, and I know that there's not a lot of good teaching in this movie, and there's not a lot of good like institutions and stuff, but I want something that Jim McAllister has. As a teacher, I want something that he's got, and I'm like, I stand in the truth of my envy about that. At my school, they don't let us have access ourselves to the copy machine because they don't trust us to like make copies in a responsible way for the institution. And the idea that this guy who shouldn't be trusted with anything can just fucking go and make his copies whenever he wants. That is the life of a king. That is the life that I want to live myself. And so I am giving myself access to the copy machine. So Ryan, you had pricing gun. Mike, you have lackeys, and I have access to the copy machine. Seeing it written out like that makes me a little sad, I have to admit. And I'm going to give this one to you, Mike, with lackeys. They're like not even characters in the movie. She just summons these sort of like gray people from the background to hang her posters and to carry her stuff. And that is an amazing soldiers. That's an amazing power. Let's review what we've got here. Ryan, you have a bag full of date goodies that you can take to your New York apartment that you can defend with your wasp tree. And you can put prices on everything with your pricing gun. Mike, you have green leather. I'm sorry, say it again, Mike.
Oh, that was Ryan saying hell yeah.
Oh, hell yeah, that's me, buddy.
The classic Ryan.
Mike, you have green leather furniture set, a hot tub, purple walls, and a lackey. Wait, did you build yourself like a fort? Like a secret base? And then fill it with...
I just want friends.
I have a bowl of gum, 480 cupcakes, an Italian driving interlude, and unfettered access to the copy machine.
Not even your own copy machine.
Yeah,
just access to.
You don't want to own a copy machine's like a boat. You don't want to own
toner?
The boat. You want to know somebody who has a boat and then invites you out 2 weekends a year. I don't want to own the copy machine. I just want someone to go, you know what? We trust you as an adult to make copies. We don't have to send you to the copy center where you have to talk to those people you don't even know. Okay. Well, that's all we have to say about Shopping Spree and about the copy etiquette at my school. When we come back, let's talk a little bit more about this weird Nebraska high school. So after that last segment, Ryan, you have 12 points. Mike, you have pulled ahead into the lead with 13 points.
Ooh, nail biter.
But now it's time to return to the land of conversation. Outside of Scorsese's crime epics, movies having multiple narrators wasn't very common until Election came along. What does this do for the movie having multiple narrators, other than make it a dead giveaway that the film is based on a book?
It does do that. It would also, I think, for like media illiterates, what it is very helpful in doing, and be like, none of them are reliable because they all have very specific worldviews. But when we have one, most of the time you're like, and that's what's going on in this movie. And so if it was all from Mr. M's point of view, it would be very distorted. But we get to see the same things or different people's takes on it. And it's also a joke machine for this movie.
Yeah.
I love, Mike is spitting truth when he goes full Mulaney. None of them are reliable. I think that, like, I don't know, when did the first Game of Thrones book come out, Greg?
1996 in there. Mike, you would know better than I, because didn't you read them like as they came out?
Oh man, if I was reading them in 96, my parents should be locked away because I was like 8 years old. I read them in high school, so in my head, they all came out in 05. But no, that's when the third one came in like 04, 05.
Yeah, I want to say somewhere in the 90s, Ryan. I think kind of the mid 90s.
And I like the show didn't have voiceover that I can remember, but I remember the books being sort of like, this is how we write now, for like popular fiction. It's just you throw a name at the front of that chapter. I feel like if it's not first, and I know it's not first, but like popularized it. And I think that was part of it. But also, I think it goes back to this thing that like I had no idea how prevalent it was in this movie before watching this last time. But like, we forge our own paths, or do we? And it just reminds me of how like every time two teams play each other, they're both like, oh, well, we prayed to God. And,
right.
That meant that God picked this team to win and this team to lose. They're all talking about, we get to hear them all talk about their destiny and their fate, and how that can't be the case, guys, if all of these people think this and they're all running up against each other. We get to spend time in their head. And I think that each character is shocked when we leave their head. It's like, what are you doing though? I'm the main character, and my destiny center is the one that's is the one that's the most important.
That sort of emphasis on multi-main characters, it does feel, if not like playing the first game is hard, but it certainly feels like that has become a more popular mode of fiction, and this sort of like realization that like this multipolar version of reality is like a better model of reality.
And I don't think there's any like Rashomon like scenes in this, right? There's not like,
no,
we don't get instances from multiple directions, but we do get people. We watch Tracy from Mr. M's point of view, and then we watch her from Tracy's point of view, and those are wildly different things.
Yeah, all the events are canon. Every event we see did happen, but we get different people's opinion of what that event meant to them and in their personal journey.
Yeah, I think it does too. And this is the Payne thing, is that, Mike, you had said that the first time you saw it, it was villain versus villain, but as you got older, you realize that like they're actually three-dimensional people, and being inside their head helps so much. Yeah. We can frown on so many of Mr. M's decisions, but like why he did it makes sense to us. Right. And that is something that you get from being in his head for like a third or a fourth of the movie.
Because nobody thinks they're a villain. And this shows that very well, except for Tammy. And I get it because she's like a teenager, but like Tammy fully knows. She's the only one who acknowledges what she does is fucked up. She doesn't necessarily try to justify it. She's the one who's like, I wanted this, so I hurt somebody.
And it's interesting that you bring up Tammy, because I think that when part of what's interesting about doing Movie of the Year is it allows us to examine the movie as the thing that we've actually just watched recently, and then we hold it up and compare it to the cultural memory of the thing and our own memories of seeing it when whatever year it came out. So I think when we talk about the cultural memory of this movie, it is as a two-hander. right? It is Mr. McAllister versus Tracy Flick. The reality of that, upon watching the movie, couldn't be farther from the truth. It's not about two characters. It is firmly about four characters. What do the Metzler siblings bring into the equation? Because there are other two narrators, right? I mean, they make up the other two voices we hear telling us the reality of the movie.
What I love about Chris Klein's Paul Metzler is in any other like teen movie, he is either purely the hero or purely the villain, depending on where their omniscience is, right? But when we see things from his, he's a stumblefuck moron who truly is like a Labrador, heart of gold, and is just like, well, I guess somebody said I should do this, but I see the best in everybody, even when they just hurt me. His role in seeing his mind proves that this movie is 4 manipulating bastards and 1 golden dum-dum. And I know she is not a narrator, but Lisa is also one of those manipulating bastards.
Chris Klein is so important to this movie, and like the fact that he's not on the posters or anything makes sense. But and I love the fact that the most famous poster is Tracy Flick's face with Matthew Broderick coming out of her mouth like the alien, like the xenomorph. But Chris Klein is so important in this movie for so many reasons, and they deliver. I think Chris Klein specifically, and maybe not Tammy, but their parents deliver a little bit of that Midwest charm that the movie might be lacking, you know. But also Chris Klein on paper, like if you just saw a clip of this movie and a clip of, is it Oz in American Pie? He's, you know, one of the worst actors in a movie that is not well acted of American Pie. On paper, he seems worse in this movie, and yet I think he delivers one of the best performances in this movie. He clearly went to high school. He clearly knew or was this person, and the fucking smile on his face that you want to be. If I would watch this when I was 13, I would have been fuck that guy. But now I just want to hug him.
It's what Chris Klein I think is underrated, and like he's most well known for American Pie, but like he is a perfect chameleon to what is around him. So he's not going to elevate the thing necessarily, but he will be like, what is the tone of this? I got it.
Chris Klein. You're talking about Chris Klein right now.
Chris Klein. Like, yes. I think he is. And these aren't, I'm not saying these are great movies, but things that he does this, like on paper, these aren't great roles. But I think in American Dreams with a Z, and Just Friends, it's the same thing where he goes like, I know what this role is supposed to be. And you haven't seen those movies, you should check him out.
Yeah. We made it one episode into a season with Mike mentioning Just Friends.
Is the Metzler brother, is Paul Metzler, is he like the moral center of the movie? Is he like is he ultimately the best character that we have?
I like best. I think
he seems most spiritually pure to me.
Yes.
And I think his optimism carries him so far. I think in his ending, he has a little bit of narration at the end, and he talks about his regrets, but it's in a way where like it could have been worse. I'm wearing a sombrero. I'm double fisting beers right now at this college party. Fuck yeah, dude. You know, I don't know what we didn't get the thing at the end of the movie where it's like Paul Metzler went on to be governor of Nebraska, but I have high hopes for him. You know, like that's the way to be.
Why he is such a sweetie and is that pure moral center, I'd say, is because when like he finds out that people are going out of their way to hurt him, he's just like, well, I just hope you're okay.
Yes.
Like Tammy is so cruel to him at times on purpose, and he just is like, are we good? Are you good? What's going on with you? Like,
he's the first one to clap after Tammy's speech.
Yes.
I think that if any of these other characters could get out of their head for 1 second, they would be a little bit jealous of the ignorance is bliss whole thing, but like, or not being in your head so much. But the way that they look upon the world, the way that they look at it is perfect. And so I think that they look down on him on the surface and then a little bit jealous underneath.
And I don't want to be mean at all, but I'll say, especially if we're comparing these main 4 characters, Jessica Campbell is doing an okay job.
Yeah.
I think she's the weakest of our main 4 actors.
I think she's the worst performer in the movie, probably, right? Like, she has a tough movie. She like the character's interesting, but she kind of struggles.
Yeah, I think she does great. I think that, I mean, she delivers her lines and she hits her punchlines. I think that the whole, I don't know, her whole idea of like, who gives a shit? Let's burn it all to the ground. I think really comes through. Do you guys recognize her?
No.
Freaks and Geeks. She is Seth Rogen's girlfriend for 2 episodes.
Yes.
She's the tuba player or whatever, the bando. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's
And
amazing.
I think did a better job then, but if you look at her filmography, not in a lot.
Yeah.
Well, she was acting up against young Seth Rogen. So
young Seth Rogen trying to get it done.
Toe to toe.
I feel like in another movie that relied so heavily on voiceover, we might call it out for it. Is that like when we watch this movie, do we think that the condemnation of voiceover is kind of stupid when compared to what it's able to affect in this movie, or is that like somehow a weakness of the movie?
I mean, like, if you just listen to like the Script Notes podcast, or sort of look at how screenplays work, voiceover is not bad screenwriting. Bad screenwriting is bad screenwriting, and like oftentimes bad screenwriters will use voiceover because they're bad. It's become much too cliche to say, oh, there's voiceover, therefore it's bad. That's just simply can't be the case. In Election, I think, as Mike said, not only does it get us into the heads, but it's such a joke delivery machine. I can't imagine the movie without it.
What a much lesser movie does with voiceover, Shawshank Redemption, is
shots fired.
Wall-to-wall Morgan Freeman, who has one of the most dulcet of tones in Hollywood. Don't hate him talking, but he's like, here's what's going on every step of the way. Did you think you might miss something for a second? I've got you. And it is not doing
character
that.
cut a hole in his pocket. And
Yeah.
then the dirt came out. What's his name? What's that character? And then Tim Robbins cut a hole in his pocket. Look at him there.
It is not complicating or adding a layer to the movie at all. It's only stupefying. And this is the exact opposite.
And
use.
honestly, like, I think it's not just a weakness of bad screenwriting, but a weakness of adapting. When you have a big ass book in front of you that has all this information, you use that voiceover to just as an information delivery machine. Exposition. Oh, and then in between this scene and the next scene, here are the 30 things that happen. That's not what this movie is doing.
No, sir. What is this movie doing? Well, we'll get to the bottom of that in our next segment, perhaps. But before we go there, I want to give us a quick score update. Ryan, you are up to 22. Mike, you have extended your lead just a bit. You are up to 24. When we come back, we're going to get into the politics of this whole deal. The plot all circles around the school election, but is this movie in any way about actual politics, or is that just some sort of backdrop to give us something to help propel the action?
I think it humanizes politicians in a very good way, but also in the way Veep humanizes politicians. It's not just saying, like, they're people just like us. It's like, look at their messy little grubby mitts and everything. They are stupid humans
reptiles.
just like us.
Yeah, they are disgusting. Just going off the author of the book's whole thing of why he told the story, we talked about how it was, him meeting women raised by feminists, and then there was a case in his town that he was sort of interpolating into this, and then also
where like the prom queen was a pregnant girl, and they the officials burned the ballots that said that she won,
right, because she was pregnant. And then the 1992 election is the big one, and so what we have here is we have this the person George W. Bush, right, or is it H.W. Bush,
the good Bush,
who is like this. How's that feel?
I don't love it, but it's just factual and historically accurate.
Let's say the better Bush.
The better Bush. There's no.
Let's not say good Bush,
dude. Yeah.
No good Bush.
Nobody that's ever led the CIA is like an okay person.
I have heard though that Bush gets so wet. But he's the person out there like who really, really wants it. And then Chris Klein comes along and is like, well, I play the saxophone. And
this might be actually pretty cool for me.
And then Tammy is Ross Perot.
Here to burn the whole fucking thing down. And I really like this flip of that Tracy Flick became synonymous with Hillary Clinton.
Right.
But back then it was a Bush. And I think the thing that gets in our craw about not just Flick, but also politicians that aren't that, lifetime politicians is you say that you want it and you say that you deserve it. But first of all, why? Tracy Flick never says why, to the people. Neither does Chris
She's
Klein,
a better class of person. That's really what it is. She believes that she is superior to other people.
Which is what all
politicians
think.
The fact that you do want it. Why?
Yeah.
It should
that's
be
why
a
people
punishment.
vote for Tammy, and that's why people voted for Trump. Is that like in part, there's also the racism, sexism, blah blah blah. But in part is like the fact that this person wants to be a politician. You're like, oh, I don't even want it, but like,
I mean, Tammy
fuck.
says the most truthful thing like about student elections that
Yes.
anybody has ever said, which is that all you want is something to put on your resume. Like, you don't want to make the school a better place. You want to say, like, you won this thing. And all there is to this is winning it or not winning it. It's like there's no other reality to it.
If we got a debate between the three of them, that would have been amazing. That would have
Yes.
been like Mystery Men superhero tryout listening to All Star level of scene.
That fucking principal was never going to let her talk ever again, though.
No.
He called
'Cause
her a
truth
little
to power.
bitch.
Yeah.
That was one of the moments that took my breath away, like, as an educator. When the principal referred to her as a little bitch, I was like, whoa, what the hell?
And did you guys recognize the vice principal from a movie we're not doing, but is from this year?
No, lay it on us.
He is the pervert judge from Drop Dead Gorgeous. Who one of his opening scenes goes, and are the girls coming in here? Do we get to meet the girls?
Oh my god! And we made that guy president 2 times.
I think the principal is the head of the Pawnee Fire Department.
Yeah.
I could just picture him saying, "Nope, nope, got to get out of here, nope." But yeah, as far as the politics go, like, I think that just watching these people push forward for no reason, and like that, if it was like I'm trying out for the head of the football team, if that's a thing, I think that it would have made Mr. M more chill. But the fact that like this goes on your resume and this is going to like be a thing that helps her. I don't think he's not worried about what Tracy Flick might do to the school next year. She'll be a pain in the ass, but like you can't actually put chocolate milk coming out of the water fountains. Like there's no thing you can do.
The pipes do not like it.
Dude, that's gonna be stinky milk soon. But yeah, just like her getting another win is what bothers him.
Part of what I wanted to add to the or part of what at this point I would like to add to the conversation of Jim McAllister and Tracy Flick is part of what he has against her the fact that he sees a lot of himself in her, and that he's actually kind of like loathing his own sort of like hollow repetition of pretending to want to do the right thing when really he knows underneath it he just wants to like be the kind of caveman that he's looking at in the museum at the end.
Yeah,
I think that's dick.
With that big old swinging uncircumcised dick, hog as nature intended.
That's I think that's why the intro is what it is. It's cutting between those two doing very similar activities, getting ready for school way too early. It is their domain. And in his head, it is only his domain. How dare she also try to control anything at all?
He accuses the other guy. He accuses Novatsky of like never getting over the high school experience. That's also his problem as well, right? Is that he, in maybe a slightly different way, but he like can't get over high school.
But I also think that one of the reasons she's a threat is because he was happy in his world.
Right.
Like he thought that he was at the top and he was happy about it.
Yeah.
And she comes in not saying like, I'm going to be the president, or maybe she does, but like, I'm not going to be an astronaut or a football star or a rapper. I'm just going to be bigger than you. And like that, the whole thing that whole level of where he's happy, he just gets like 4 out of 5 Teacher of the Year awards, and of the last 5 years. And like, he is super satisfied with this until she comes and her ambition shatters it all. Like, it makes him feel small.
Also, like, I got the sense early on, I totally agree with that, Ryan, but I also got the sense early on, he likes reaching down and helping the students up.
Right.
And she's not looking for that type of help, actually.
She needs it the most, but yeah.
Yeah, but she's like, she's fine. She knows she's going to make it one way or another. And he wants the kind of student that's like, I can't do it. And he's like, no, I'm going to inspire you. And when she doesn't need any of that, it makes him feel as useless as he fears that he really might be.
Even though she does ask for his help throughout the movie, but because it's not like pleading enough, and it'd be nice if you could help me, not.
And it's also kind of like she expects that he will help, and it is his job to. But it's like with this weird thing where teachers are supposed to both be like kind of volunteering in a way. So like, even though it's their job, they also need praise. And she kind of treats him like, well, it's your job, so do it.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I'm also going to need that praise.
It's also in Nebraska. And I don't think that this movie shits on Nebraska. I think it treats the Midwest with a lot of care. It doesn't point fingers and make fun. And that is a lot probably because that's where Payne is from. But Payne said about the two characters that Mr. M is a circle and Tracy is a line that is always going forward. And that's the big difference. And he said that he wasn't always able to do that, but it taught me so much. Like
he's always appearing with an apple, and he uses apples and oranges as an example. He's always got circles like all around him. Like when he gets stung by the wasp, he's in like an orchard basically.
He's covered in circles, but everything behind him is covered in round things.
Yeah.
But also just he runs in a circle and she runs forward, and that drives him nuts. Like he doesn't understand it. So like one of the first scenes we see is him running around a track, which doesn't get you anywhere. Like maybe it makes you more fit, but like it doesn't get you anywhere instead of her who's like a marathon runner and is just going forward all the time. And so I think that he not only like goes for the people who he thinks are below him and need him the most, but he also looks for other circles, people who are like want to be the best circle they can, but are just kind of running around this track. And her moving forward is intimidating. For her moving forward, that is also impossible for her to understand him. Like to be an Omaha teacher and you're good, that's unfathomable to her, which would piss someone like Mr. M off.
And his last job is he's docent at in a museum, and all they do is walk around in circles.
Same shit every day.
Oh, you know what that means. It's time to move on to our speed round. I think we covered this a little bit earlier, but is there anything creepier than just like popping on a porno and then just like sort of chilling and watching it? What are we doing here?
The only time I ever did it, I was like 8, and I like, this sucks. I wish my brother and my cousin would leave the room. Yeah.
When you're 8 and there's porn, you're like,
somebody hand me that pillow or get out of the room.
Equation is not happening.
There's something that's not ready just yet. Whose favorite fruit is pears?
Yeah, that's so. What the fuck, Chris Klein?
What are we doing here? That is very disconcerting.
I like a pear of apples. That's a real man's fruit. I love how you guys harmonize after I say something like that.
If Tracy Flick tore down all the posters in your 15-year-old bedroom, what would she tear down?
Oh, a sweet...
Lots of Jenny McCarthy.
Oh, we were equally cool because I was a sweet, those blacklight felty posters of like this
the back of Spencer's
red
gifts?
Dragon in front of a castle.
Nice. Rockin'. I had like Playboy Playmate of the Year for I think 1998, Victoria Silvstedt. My friend got me a poster of her, and so I put her on my wall. Like I just letting
your parents know what you're into.
Dude, I reflect on that a lot, and I'm like, what was that like for my mom? I'm 15, and there's like a busty lady on my and she's just got to be like, okay.
Just so listeners know, Greg's mom looks exactly like Victoria Silvstedt.
that did add an air of awkwardness to it. I
thought this was you, Mom.
If we want a poster of my mother. Okay. If we're getting real revealing here, I would the newspaper that we subscribed to when I was a kid would have it was like a half size of a newspaper magazine for all the movies. So there would be these full page ads, and I would tape all of the newspaper ads around my room. And then also you couldn't walk in my room because of a giant movie theater stand up. For which movie, Mike? I'll give you a hint.
Last Boy Scout.
Stars Tom Arnold.
True Lies?
It was a giant True Lies stand-up that took up every square foot of my room.
Mike has just recently had his eyes opened to the True Lies experience.
Look,
he's got True Lies eyes.
It's so far away from the year we're doing or we'll ever do, because I think we probably did it. That movie fucking rules, listeners.
Gentlemen, does your ball and ass washing game match that of Jim McAllister's?
I don't know if I've ever watched my ball and ass.
Mike, you want to go play ball and ass?
It's what the 1800 kids used to play.
Ball and ass washing. That is what he's feverishly doing in the hotel room, right?
My one note for this movie, it's a nearly perfect movie, is while he was doing that, if they had just played in the background.
Why does Paul Metzler break the fourth wall at the end of the movie to say, maybe I'm dead? Is it because he is dead? Is Paul Metzler's Sixth Sense Fight Club? Please just answer the damn question and we can move on.
I would love that for that to be our pull quote.
Is Paul Metzler Sixth Sense Fight Club? Mike, respond.
No, I refuse to believe he's Sixth Sense Fight Club.
He is not Sixth Sense Fight Club, but isn't that supposed to point out to something about his innocent nature?
I think
he can be like aware of the film in a way.
He says, if it didn't all go down this way, I wouldn't have gone to Yosemite with Travis and Greg.
Dude,
that's his big takeaway.
Man, I have never wanted to know what an experience was like more than when he went to Yosemite with Travis and Greg, because it's like they had a couple of beers each and howled at the moon or something.
They probably watched Conan and were like, "What is this?"
When we come back, it is time to shower this movie with awards and to each give a recommendation. We are here with a score update. Ryan, you have 30. Mike, you have 34. But you can still win points as this movie wins its fair share of awards. Ryan, election, it won how many Oscars?
72, Greg.
72. Well, tonight, it's going to win 5 more.
I think it was at least nominated for Best Adapted, not to be that guy as I push up my glasses.
He did literally push up his glasses, so of course that is a point for Ryan.
Shit.
Pound for pound performance. Mike, who is giving you your P for P?
We don't love to do it here, but there's a reason other people are in her mouth on the poster. I think this is... I understand why her career launched after this, and I don't know if Witherspoon ever came close to touching a role as nuanced and great as Tracy Flick.
Maybe in Big Little Lies. Maybe. Ryan,
That's
what do you say?
TV, Greg, doesn't count. It's stupid.
It's not TV. It's HBO, Mike.
That's a Reese's Piece. That's not a movie. I am going to go with somebody who I think may have ruined his career, and so unfortunate. If he just started acting 10 years later, he could have been one of the Chris's. This was not the time for Chris's. It came later.
Anti-Chris period.
Yeah, but I think that Chris Klein is so good in this, and could have also turned talent scouts or whoever's watching movies off of I don't think this big dumb guy could repeat this, or maybe he can only do this. This is his entire range, which I think is wrong and awful. But trying to find a pound for pound here, Greg, I'm going with Chris Klein.
I'm going to give it to you, Ryan, but I think this movie definitely had some of the pound for pound. When we thought of the award originally, some people would just say a couple lines. Honestly, I was kind of thinking it might be the principal. He has so many amazing lines for a guy that really has 8 or 10 lines in the entire film. When
Hunter from The Office is just clearly insinuating, and he's like, "Hey, Hunter, you don't go there. You don't do that."
The other moment I was going to say is when he gives his little speech in the middle of Tracy Flick's speech, "Hey, if you want us to treat you like children, we'll treat you like children. We won't accord you the respect of adults." Everything about that is so perfect.
And there's this thing with this character that if the narration bug had flown into his ear, it would just be wind and dust bunnies, tumbleweeds. There are characters in this world that just don't have thoughts other than I'd stand up here and I'd wag my finger.
Yeah, dude. He's he just wants there not to be troubles at work. And when there are troubles at work, he's just mad at whoever's creating issues for him. All right. Director's signature moment. Ryan, what would you say is the director's signature moment here?
I mean, this is a hard one because this is maybe what I consider the painiest movie of all time. I think that all Payne movies spring from this.
Even painier than Major Payne?
Yes, Craig. Alexander Payne's greatest movie, Major Payne.
Let's give myself a point there.
This is better than Spielberg's greatest movie, Major Spielberg. But I have to go with the poster scene. You brought up the not the poster scene where Matthew Broderick comes out of her mouth in the movie poster, but the poster teardown scene. Greg, you brought up the Italian cinema scene. There is a lot going on here with pop culture.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we mentioned how when Mr. M is trying to get his wife pregnant, a Brady Bunch sort of screen comes on to the back of her head showing the front of Tracy Flick's
that's
face,
disturbing there. Don't exorcist vision shit.
Greek mythology or something. But there is something going on with that. But I think the most penetrative one is the Ennio Morricone score. anytime Tracy has a little bit of a meltdown,
Yes.
and she just keeps going with this poster thing. Like, she has time to stop and think and then continue. And I said this before that, like, you know, we needed this moment with Tracy. There's also a part that I'd never noticed before, but there's her first one where she's trying to just pin up her poster back so it works. The poster is "Who cares? Tracy Flick cares." And she ends up falling and ripping off one part, and it just says "Who cares?" And we don't see what it says, but she looks at it and like has to confront that. And instead of saying, "Well, nobody should," she has to flip the other way and go absolutely mental. And I think it's
the very end of the scene where she stands there panting, looking at her bloody hands, which are bloody because she has paper cuts on them, and the way in which it like. She has just acted like a complete savage and torn all this stuff asunder. But then you're forced to remember that it's just fucking posters.
I know, dude.
The score is going off. She's looking at her hands like, what have I done? I can't believe it. And it's like, you have removed posters. I think it's okay.
And something that we don't see, like, we only see her think about that moment as much as it will get her in trouble. Like, what is Tammy going to do with this information, with the trashed posters? We don't see her, like, not be able to sleep at night because of this bad, unethical thing that she did.
Yeah.
You know?
Mike, what is your signature moment?
I'm going signature move more than moment. It's Alexander Payne does something it's like Tim and Eric, awesome show, good job, fame. They fill in, their extras are all just normal ass people, and I feel like Alexander Payne does that to, like, look at that janitor.
The janitor, dude.
Like, there's so many people throughout this movie that just look like real people. They don't look like people in movies.
We didn't get a chance to talk about it, but this movie is at its core about throwing things away. And the way that we think that when we put something in a garbage can, it's just gone forever. And it's like, no, that's not sufficient. Somebody else comes around and takes that garbage can. But because we don't think about that ever, like, we think we can bury our issues.
And I mean, like, I can't believe how everywhere it is, you know, when Mr. M is driving away after Hunter fucking hawks a loogie right on his car. He's followed by a garbage can into the distance. Like, it just doesn't leave you.
When Tracy goes to, like, fix her poster before she ends up tearing it down, what she drags over is a garbage can, which she puts upside down. Like, the garbage just keeps coming back, everybody.
There's such a 90s moment. It is Tim and Eric, but it's also very 90s to me, of these, like, you know, Wes Anderson or whoever, of, like, just pausing on the janitor's face and just letting it hang there in a way that, like, I mean, Wes Anderson would have, like, thrown a Who song over it or whatever, but like, that it's a take. I don't love that we flashed back to it. Like, we're all on the same page as you, buddy. We remember that moment, but the hang on the janitor's face is so this time.
And is very Milton from Office Space.
Yes. Oh, yes, definitely. And it really has a weird way of invalidating everything you've seen, because the whole movie, you have been like, oh, these are the actions that lead to this guy's downfall. But honestly, it's this very innocuous thing you see at the beginning. If he had not thrown that Chinese food on the ground, the janitor wouldn't have this grudge against him, and he wouldn't have cared about the ballot slips. So it's like, ultimately what undoes him is they're like someone he doesn't even realize he's interacted with as an asshole.
It also goes, I mean, like, but Mr. M at his high level of a circle can't even think about somebody who does it lower, that, you know, like, he's below him. Also, so much so that he can't even put the trash into the circle that is a trash can.
The circle of trash can. All right, I'm giving that one to Ryan for the totality of the poster scene. Up next, Cringe. This movie's from 99. That's a cringy amount of years ago. Surely something made you cringe, Mike. What was it?
Do you know what mine is? Is this movie, I think, is super sharp, super funny. Anything that makes you go, oh, it's supposed to, because there's a lot of characters. But one of the last, if not the last line, is a fucking callback to Ferris Bueller with Matthew Broderick saying, anybody? Fuck you. Are you serious? You were so much better than that this whole entire movie, Alexander Payne. What are you doing? On the way out, the last thing we're doing is referencing his most famous role.
Ew, that is gross. I like that one. Ryan?
We didn't even talk about how much we talked about with Mr. M when Greg was trying so hard to get us to talk about Tracy. We didn't even talk about this perfect casting of, like, 15 years later.
Yes.
Ferris becoming Mr. Rooney. Payne claims that he never saw Ferris Bueller, which is fine, but Such perfect casting. I'm sorry. It's Her Pussy Gets So Wet. Just sends a thing through me. I don't like hearing it.
You know, the impact of that line has changed a lot. And I'll tell you, it's actually, for me, it's been buried by what McAllister says next, which he says, "Don't tell me that. I can't know that." Because he really thinks that's sufficient if he didn't know the exact details. Like that he is somehow not guilty of what his friend is doing, although he like kind of like almost vicariously lives through it in a weird way. If the guy would just not tell him the particulars, that would be like enough for him. I'm going to give that one to Mike. I like the I like the unintentional cringe there of you're not offending anybody except for our sensibilities as moviegoers. All right, one of our special awards for this year is an idea I had all on my own. I was like, you know what? This is such a good idea, Greg. And I was like, thank you. I could use that support. And it was Music Moment, a wholly original award here on the show. Ryan, what do you think is the best music moment of this movie film?
A lot of good needle drops, but I have to go with the end with Jennifer Juniper.
Juniper.
Sung by Ione Skye's dad. I think that I love this ending for Tammy specifically because she gets the best ending.
Yeah.
But because we're older and we know more, it will still be terrible. Tammy is this person who throws her heart into whoever she's in love with right now. She is 17.
Yep.
I promise you that this will end in heartbreak as well. But when the credits roll, Tammy gets a happy ending, and it's all set to this like thing in the 90s where we were going to edit these montages to songs from way before our time.
Imagine that now it would be like, cut my life into pieces. This is my last resort. Jennifer. Juniper.
I understand how weird it would have been to just play Downward Spiral, any song from Downward Spiral on that part, but it's just such a nice little ending for her.
It's a beautiful song too. Like it's just like I wasn't familiar with that song, and it's perfect, and it fits, and the camera work is like perfect there. What do you got, Mike?
Mine is when we see what a not player Dave is so many times, Mr. Navari. But when he's wooing her at his house, he puts on a record, and I think it's the Commodores, but it's the once, twice, 3 times. Like what? That is the
that
dorkiest.
Could be also cringe, dude.
And you're trying to say because she's 3 times a lady. Is that what you're saying, Dave? And that's what the dumb smirk on his face does when he turns around and says. And it's.
I don't know if we've talked about tonight how we're discussing American Beauty later.
Yeah.
But one quick connection. Both of these creepy old dudes going after high school underage girls, they hand them root beer bottles. So it looks like beer, but that part's not. I'm not giving them alcohol. I'm just trying to have sex with them.
Ryan, I'm giving you the point there because I also had that as my music moment. Mike, for this year, we're also doing funniest moment. This movie is basically nonstop funniest moments. But what did you select as the funniest of the funniest moments?
There's a bunch. The speech scene that we've talked about. Tracy having to interrupted his treat you like children into Chris Klein. He's this popular guy who knows what to say, who is the worst we've ever seen him, into Tammy's Burn It All Down, and just everybody's reactions to everybody's speech. When
they're like heckling Tammy so hard and she's like, this is stupid and fake. Yeah. And it just gets utterly silent because they're all like, oh. Ryan, what you got?
I have to go with, this is the most laugh out loud moment for me. LOL, I call it LOLM, which is that scene before the garbage truck chases Mr. M into the distance. Larry Fouch is his name, Hunter, aka the Hunted. They pull up at the red light, and Fouch rolls down his window and just so angrily spits the littlest amount of spittle I've ever seen. But it's Mr. McAllister looks over and he can't decide how to react, so he does this middle ground thing of like hello but also goodbye, like and he just fucking fire in Hunter the Hunted's eyes as he spits all over his stupid car.
The boy
his tiny little car.
Like, yes. He basically is as much to contend with at the end of this movie as Flick ever is. I'm going to give that one to Mike, but I have to give also honorable mention shout out to when right before Paul, when he still thinks he won and he's called to the office and his Spanish teacher says in Spanish, go to the office. And Paul just hits her with an all-time, huh? And it's such a minor thing on the scope of the movie, but it made me laugh out loud every single time I watched it this
Especially
week.
because office in Spanish is oficina.
Oficina, yeah, and he's just like, huh? And he hits it so hard. Okay, so
It's also worse because everyone else in that class is not paying attention at all. He's the only one like bright-eyed there for it, and he can't speak Spanish at all.
before we peace out, no doubt, on this movie, are there any recommendations, fellas? If you loved Election, but you already watched it 3 times this week, what else might you be into, Ryan?
I have selected a movie that is different in tone, but definitely inspired by it, I think. And this is The Edge of 17, where Haley Steinfeld plays a 17-year-old who has a bit of a bad teacher, played by Woody Harrelson, but they interact. They put all their shit on Front Street, and it definitely changes how the movie works. Instead of stabbing people in the back, they're just awful to each other. This movie gets brought up every once in a while as like an underwatched. This should have had like Easy A status, even though Easy A is a flop and criminally underwatched. But just to give it one more chance of what it's like to be a girl trying to find their way and the boy teacher who isn't the best for them, but maybe will be in the long run. Edge of 17.
I love when Tracy Flick is like, and just so you know, I don't think Dave Novotny is like a father figure or anything. He's just big and strong and will protect me.
Yeah.
He does that like back-to-back lines. Edge of 17 with a small shout out to Easy A, which is definitely worth checking out. Mike, what do you got?
If you want to see what Tracy Flick would be like as an adult, if she wasn't a clear Republican showing she's the true villain throughout this whole movie, because every step of the way, that's actually what she is an evil, dirty Republican.
Yeah, because she's like Ann Coulter now, right?
Yeah. It's starting with season 2 of Parks and Recreation.
Oh.
The continued story of Tracy Flick is Leslie Knope.
I like that.
I've heard of women in binders, but women having binders?
Now I've seen everything.
They've got their own binders now. I'm going to give my recommendation now. We've had the boys having midlife crises, right? We've had them like, oh, what about this is the rest of my sex life? Is this all it's going to be? We get that. 99 gives us boys like that by the billion. But I am reading a book right now called All Fours by Miranda July, star of Page and Screen. And it is about a 40-something-year-old woman who is going through her own midlife shit. Is it perimenopause? Is it unquenched romantic fires? Is she just having a little bit of a mental breakdown? Miranda July looks into the very center, the very reality of the human experience, and she does not flinch. There are moments in this, like every other Miranda July joint, where your skin is crawling because the character is not afraid to tell you things that you don't want to know about any other living human being, and you can't help but feel like you're seeing into a little bit Miranda July's soul. But that trauma is also a real binding experience, and All Fours is one of the best books I've read in probably the last 5 years or so. So fans, go out and check it out.
I wish she would go back to making movies so I would experience what she does. This book writing thing.
All Fours.
What am I supposed to do with that?
Has been optioned to be a TV show. So hopefully that will be a show soon. All right, Ryan, that means you end with 38 points. Mike, you end with 37 for this segment, I should say, though, because I just remembered we have one additional segment, gentlemen, before we declare a winner. What? And when we come back, we're going to turn our attention from Election to a movie that couldn't be more the same, in American Beauty. Before we go, we have a companion movie this week, and it is American Beauty. American Beauty follows Lester Burnham as he clocks in as our second 1999 man going through it. Tired of just leading the same boring life and doing the same thing every single guy does, Lester decides to try to have sex with a much younger woman to prove to himself that he is still alive. Very original. Inviting us, on the one hand, to look closer. It also seems to have a grudge against subtlety, from Kevin Spacey proclaiming, "I rule," to Mina Suvari's various Rose encounter experiences. This movie is full of iconic moments and images. But Mike, you and I were both keen to see it kicked out early. Watching it this week, did you feel like we messed up at all?
Not in the slightest.
Look closer, buddy.
Damn.
What I'll say is it's not, this movie knows Lester's a pathetic schmuck.
Okay.
But throughout the movie, like how schmarmy he can be about things. And it's just like, it's not full on how we describe Fight Club falling in love with Brad Pitt, but the movie is lesser and lets everything get away from it. And it's so big that nothing ends up interesting. Every time somebody is screaming what their character's theme is, you're like, yeah, no, cool. All right.
Mike or Ryan, I got the sense that it's not so much that you argued that this movie should move on because you liked it in the least or thought that it was good, but you thought it was a little bit too iconic to dispense with. Is that an accurate reading of your position?
Yes. There's so many. If you watch a 1999 clip show, whether it is made in 1999 or even today, this movie will pop up a million times. Not only did it win Best Picture, but there is all these iconic moments. So I don't know what I voted out because to get this movie in, and to that movie, I am sorry, but I think that it was too iconic to deny. That being said, if I watch this movie one more time, I will put it below like The Adventures of Pluto Nash as one of the worst movies I have ever seen. I totally get how if you are an early on movie watcher and you've only seen it once, there's so many things that can suck you in. But knowing all of the nooks and crannies of this movie and then trying to find new stuff, and we always say like try to go in, arms uncrossed, like give it a chance. I cannot believe how gaudy and awful this movie is at almost every corner. It's embarrassing. Like it's just, I was so glad I watched it by myself because I would be shivering next to the person I was with because I'm the one that chose to put this on.
I was just saying, I was thinking of the different acting, and it's just so wild. And I actually don't know when it came out compared to Ghost World, but it's so wild for Thora Birch to play the same character in two different movies, but one have it be fully developed and humanizing and thoughtful, and one be this trash.
There's a person in this movie who I'm sure was nominated and is incredible in every movie she's in, but Annette Bening's performance of "There's a lot of things you don't know about me, Mr. Man," like it, and then slapping herself at the beginning of the movie, falling into the clothes at the end of the movie. There is not one single ounce of truth in her performance. It is really hard to watch.
Crying with the gun while listening to motivational speakers. That is fucking high school film school level shit.
And I'm so glad actually that it got paired with this movie. I think it was because of alphabetical order, which is fine, but they work so well together because watching Election, I remembered a comparison to Rushmore that Max Fisher and Tracy Flick were too similar. And if you've only seen the trailers to those two movies, then you're like, is this the same movie? But if you watch the movies, they are a lesson in tone. And how Wes Anderson and Alexander Payne make movies are so wildly different that I believe that they could take the same scripts and make crazy different movies. Watching Election with American Beauty, I feel like they somehow chose the single worst director, Sam Mendes, who went on to make like
Road to Perdition,
and then Skyfall, which is like one of the best newer Bond movies. But there's nothing satirical or like tongue in cheek about Bond. Like that's where he belongs. If this screenplay was edited, the screenplay was edited by Payne and then he directed it, I think it could have been wonderful. But how this guy jams this shit down our throats is embarrassing to watch.
Mike, I felt like last time there was this gulf between how good we had remembered it was and how bad it was, and that hurt it. Was there any, like when Ryan said that when he watched it, he said it actually fell even further, but was there any part of you that was like, this isn't as bad as I remember last time I saw it, or was it even worse?
It's even worse. It definitely, great actors slumming it here. It did feel.
Before I answer, let me say even worse for sure by far.
It's like Mendes is like, Benny, you don't have to act. Your hair will be the performance. In every scene your hair is will let people know what your character is going through. Or Chris Cooper. Like it's what it did. I don't think I picked up on last time because I was so stunned how bad it was for an Oscar winning picture, which it shouldn't. There's plenty of terrible movies have won Best Picture. Is this time watching it, I'm like, oh, this is when I'm like, Mendes in the movie, no Kevin Spacey. Lester Burnham is a pathetic piece of shit. Because I definitely skewed it, and I do think it's part of how people talk about it. Is it's like, yeah, he did some wrong things, but is he wrong? Which is so many of this kind of dude from this era.
I was struck by how cruel he is from the beginning to the end. Like, he is so selfish in the grief that he feels. And I honestly, it was hard for me to calibrate how aware the movie was of like how awful he is. I think that more than I thought before, but I still don't think they fully comes to terms with the fact that he's like a total monster, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Thora Birch is like all of her reactions of like, I don't want a dad that spazzes his shorts every time I bring a friend over, or her coming out of the shower after Angela Star 69's her and sees like she figures it out immediately what happened. Like, that's fucking horrifying to have as a father. There is no going back from that. And I think what it presented before, and like there's so much stuff that I'm sure we tackled last time that was so obviously gross, like if you're gay, if you're closeted gay, you'll murder, right?
Yeah.
Like all of that stuff that still comes off awful. But like the fact that this gave somebody younger, white dudes to be like, yeah, man, if that ever happens to me, that's exactly how I'm going to react. And it's going to be awesome. To fucking, I bought a Camaro or Firebird. I also bought a remote control car. We didn't see that scene, but he bought 2 cars on the same day. Drives the remote control car into her feet. And then, Greg, like you said, finishes the speech with, I rule? What the fuck are we watching here?
Yeah.
Okay, but there's something you brought up, Ryan, and this is like not an easy issue for me to address, but this movie is bad. But when we saw it, we were so stupid still. And because it was so obvious, we got it and we felt like we were interpreting something. Is there an argument for this type of art which is bad, but is like baby's first critical experience or something like that, that like it's never going to be art because it's too stupid, but it's also so stupid that young aspiring critical thinkers maybe can like get some practice on it or something?
Absolutely. And I'll go back to what Mike said about Shawshank. Like, that can be your favorite movie until you watch 4 more movies.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you can also retract your previous statements and say like, oh, I got tricked by the, like, there are a ton of really engaging scenes.
Like years later, you could start a podcast and then review the movies of years past.
And apologize to everyone. Make your former self apologize to you. But there are so many scenes that like are, you want to watch them. There's not like that boring aspect. This is not Tarkovsky, but it feels like you are engaging with something that is a little bit better than. And watch more movies and then go back and watch it. And
it's
American ugly,
so
I call it.
Soapy and melodrama without being like, we love soap. We love some melodrama, but it's none of the fun in that. It's just the big and stupid version of it.
Yeah.
The fact that they made sure to know that we had gay neighbors on one side, therefore we can now demonize the other gay person on the other side of the house.
Yes.
Like, it's so see-through.
And like Wes Bentley, right? That's the actor's name, right? The bad kid.
Mm-hmm. Ricky Fitz.
Ricky Fitz is what does this guy want other than to get away from his terrible dad and be like, look at the art is so many terrible careers of poets and filmmakers that this character, what monster hath just that character wrought? Do you know how many years I walked around with a fucking video camera in my hand? Ew.
Why does he dress like a Bible salesman? There's one Ricky Fitz. I mean, everybody makes fun of so many things, like the bag floating in the air being the most beautiful thing that they've ever seen, blah, blah, blah. But my new one is Lester Burnham has been shot in the head. Ricky Fitz's girlfriend, that's her father.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's probably got to be traumatic. He bends down and looks at it like he's one of those confused raptors from a Jurassic Park movie, just like, and then realizes I shouldn't be enjoying this as much as I should be because of my girlfriend over there.
The rest of the movie, I was like, actually, is this character great? Because like he's doing bits and like, oh yeah, we're being dark teenagers, but we know that we're just doing jokes. And it feels like the movie and him lost the thread in that last scene. And that's when I was like, oh no, you thought he was a Columbine kid? Because the rest of the movie kind of thought he was making fun of that.
And this is exactly what I'm talking about, is that I don't want this movie rewritten and directed by the people who made Not Another Teen Movie. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about Alexander Payne and his ability to deliver this information about American families in a dark, satirical way is what I think they had on their hands. And there's a lot of stuff about how like it wasn't a murder or it was more of a murder mystery and they toned that down. But like there's still that whole thing at the end of like who did kill Mr. Burns Ham.
But there was 2 options. That's not even that much of a mystery.
Yeah, there's an iconic scene of the camera moving through rooms, and it's Mina Suvari like washing her hands, and she hears the gunshot, and then she looks over like, oh, and now we're like, oh, it wasn't Mina Suvari, the scared 16-year-old girl. Let's cross her off our detective list.
Well, that was American Beauty. I am sensing that we are very glad that we did not devote an entire show to it again. Do you think we're going to get heat from anybody? I mean, like when I was doing research for the show, like its IMDb rating is still very high. Its Letterboxd rating is still high. Do we think anyone's going to be like, you were wrong?
Unless people go back and re-rate, those start high and stay high.
Yeah.
So that's, I assume that is old school. And yeah, like, bring the heat. I love it.
Yeah.
But honestly, not looking at the list right now, we had 9 movies last time we did 99. We have 9 movies this time. I expect it to be 18th place.
Yeah, dude. I mean, Mike and I thought maybe we weren't even going to have to talk about it when we voted it out.
I was hoping.
We don't pay attention to the rules of how the show works. But this is the period where we talk about the final score. Ryan, you ended the night with 45 points. Mike, you ended the night with 43 points. Ryan, you've done it. You won the election. There are no ballots thrown in the garbage. I promise. The only thing thrown in the garbage, American Beauty. You are a terrible movie. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to wrap this whole thing up. Well, Ryan is our winner for the night, and thinking of winners and thinking about this movie, Election, as we said, was nominated for an Oscar, and it won so many of our awards tonight. But how about the season-long Moodies? Can you guys think of any of the upcoming Moodies at the end of the season that this might be a shoe-in for? What do you think, Ryan?
Oh, I would be shocked if Best Actress wasn't here. We gave Chris Klein his due, but this is Reese Witherspoon becoming a star, and not in like one of those, let's go back in time and sort of look at what she did before. Like, this is it. She's on the roller coaster now. And
she really does seem to like understand all the subtleties of that performance, right?
Yeah.
Like she seems to understand the complexity of what's going on.
And her nostril flares.
So she gets like the pretty subtle humor, and then also the innocence. One of the first scenes we meet her legs are like swinging.
Yeah,
and you're like, oh, you're a kid. This movie is showing us, and she's doing in her mannerisms.
She knows a bunch of big words, but she misuses like a couple of them in key moments. You know. Mike, what do you think this might be a shoe-in for in the Moody category?
There's a lot of shitheads in this movie.
Oh my gosh,
a lot of shitheads indeed. Violence, posters.
I know it's not. We don't always
think
of on-screen duo as being like an antagonistic duo, but is there any chance that we could get like the negative energy for duo in this?
Their reactions to each other, like, I can't believe you exist.
Yeah.
Tracy to Mr. M and Mr. M to Tracy. She's like, well, you know what they say, the early bird gets the worm. And his reaction to her of like, yeah.
Almost every action could have ended with him using the DDT pile driver on her. Just like, he wants to do violence to her every time they interact.
I don't love that one of the times I felt most connected to any character in this movie was his reaction to that line of like, you're going to just say some stupid bullshit and expect me. Now I have to respond to this.
Yeah, because this is pleasant. Like this sort of like completely fake, awful thing. That's what is pleasant. Another one I have to throw out there is, I don't know that I always off the top of my head think of Election as one of the great music movies, but this has like 4 candidates for music moment. I mean, Tracy's like Italian-esque like spaghetti western score when she like whenever she sees red, the Jennifer Juniper part, when the Novotny, the teacher, sings you're a little
Foxy.
Heartbreaker. And it's just like, it's so gross because you know exactly what's going on there. So any of those could potentially be Moody territory. Well, the 99 season has just begun, ladies and gentlemen. We still have a lot of great movies coming up on the horizon, and we have a lot of great guests coming up as well. And in the meantime, do me a favor, would you? Keep watching them movies.